Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Monday night. It's a little weird. It feels like forever since we've been able to talk to you kind of this way, and there's not like 8 or 9 people like in a box around me.
Wait a second, I've got multiple personalities, so that could be the 7 or 8 or 9 people right there.
Well, we've always had that, but we just don't have as many boxes. So it's a little different.
A little bit different. Just a little bit.
But no, it's good to have everybody back, and thank you very much for taking time out of your Monday night to join us. If you're streaming live during this time and checking us out on YouTube, obviously you can partake in the chat, and we'll be able to see what's going on and chat with you as well. And if you're catching this later in one of our other streams, well, you can chat away, and eventually John will get it and tell us.
Yeah, if I see it. Sometimes I don't, if it's 7 days later, but we try.
We do. He does.
But
no, we've got a great show for you tonight because we're going to look back on the year that we wish never happened. But there are some things that happened. There are some good things that came from this year, and some mediocre things, and some things that maybe we can learn from and push forward to next year. So tonight, that's going to be a large portion of what our talk is going to be. Just kind of looking back and using that to look forward.
And one of Dan, we talked about hitting those 4 topics, and those we'll definitely hit. But one that has come to me this afternoon as I was spending more time with some of my kids, and then Howie sent a message and such. And one, I think, part of 2020 that is going to be hopefully the one that we'll remember the longest is that 2020 became the year that for many of us we were able to spend more time with our family, especially if we have children that live in our houses. When we were busy as entertainers and we were out every weekend and we were gone here, gone there, doing this, doing that, 2020 became a year that we had our Saturdays and we could spend them with the children. Even if outside of the DJ side of it, today I took my boys, we went shoe shopping for basketball shoes. But beyond that, we haven't gone we haven't done the shopping trips. We haven't done these little things here and there that have taken, well, let's see. Friday we had to go grocery shopping, and then Saturday I was DJing, and then Sunday we went to church and this and that and the other thing, and you didn't spend any time with the kids. So it's been a year. I think some are going to look back and say, I got to spend more quality family time with my children or with my spouse, what have you, than ever before. Secondly, there's many of our viewers out there who don't have any family that are connecting with them, whether they're single and are in that place in their lives. Maybe their family are extended or have passed away, what have you. So it's been a situation where some of these people have been finding a home within our little DJNTV families out in the DJNTV.com/chill room. The chill room has been a great spot, and it's people have just been able to connect and keep their sanity in some cases, and it's just I'm hoping that that's going to be part of what people take out of this year when we're done. Is that there were opportunities for a family growth, whether it's with blood family or maybe it's with a circle of friends or a new group of friends that you have become part of a family, and that's going to be something you can hold on to from this year.
I do wonder, how many people, have kind of gotten this taste of the Saturdays, have gotten the taste of having the weekends off, and especially from the part-time standpoint, who 6 months from now, when events start to pick back up and they do a couple, suddenly they're like, you know what, I missed that Saturday. And they kind of say, you know what, I'm going to finish the contracts that I have and I'm going to hang it up just because I got a taste of what that was again. And if they don't have to use the money to live on, suddenly it becomes a much more family-friendly option.
I think you definitely have hit something there, and the part of that equation you hear people talking about, it's like, wow, this has been cool, but it's that money thing, and I think that some are finding out that, wait a second, you know what, I really don't need that DJ income because I was taking the DJ income and I was buying more DJ gear all the time. So now we don't have that expense, and then we can turn around and say, maybe that 20-hour-a-week job, I can go make more money working 20 hours a week doing this and have my weekends to spend. I think that's a real thing that a lot of DJs are going to be. I don't want to say it's going to be a harsh slap of reality coming up for them, but I think it will be there because the part that some of us really loved, where we had 300 people on a dance floor yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering, that we may not see that for even in 2021 or 20 into 2022. And even when everything is, quote, safe to come back, will people react the same way? And people say, oh, look at the roaring 20s and all these different things. There's differences between what happened then and what happened now, and how people came out of it and what situations set this up. And they don't completely correlate. So there's people change their demeanor and change their actions and the way they do things. And this could be a situation where that happens. Just as a simple situation is the curbside pickup for purchasing things like at Target or Walmart or what have you. That's not going to go away. This is increasing. And today I was at Target, I was walking past, and we have young people who are in their cars having people deliver things to their cars. These 20-somethings could go into that store now safely, pretty much as safe as anybody, but they're doing that. And they're not going to change that when they find out how convenient that is. So we do change. And how that changes in the future might be one of those things that DJs say, parties were more fun back in the 2018, 2019s.
Yeah. Or even just limiting more of when they are, how many they're performing.
Very, yeah.
You're like, oh, you know what? That extra cash to take for vacation, that's one or two a month, and then I've got enough to cover that, and then some.
And and I think that's an area that I went to, because I was really contemplating becoming the personal DJ for the Huey Lewis concert tour in 2021, but I decided to pass on that. I figured, as tough as it is,
I think we've just invented the new drinking game.
I'll pass on.
Anytime John says, the M word or the H word.
Okay, so you just brought it up. Yes, they did have a new press release that Mega Seg 6 point something or another came out this past week, and it has more incredible mixing features than ever before.
You can mix with it?
Yes.
Auto mix?
Yes.
And other?
I don't know. I haven't tried it. I haven't installed the last 2 updates. I own the software. I actually own 2 copies of the software, one for each computer, but I haven't installed it for a while. And of course, MJ's got some new cool information for Virtual DJ that you guys are going to see in a video coming up this week on a new feature that was just added that is still in beta, but he got the information on it. He tested it out, and he's going to go through and dig into that. That should be up Wednesday night. So I'm kind of excited to see that, because usually when I hear people talking of a new feature in Virtual DJ, most people are like, oh yeah, here's a new feature. And it's like, oh, that sounds cool. But then MJ will go and dig into it and show you how it works and explain how it works. And then it's like, oh my gosh, how have I lived that long without that?
Well, I feel like I've known MJ forever. So I'm going to say, I don't remember a time before that.
That's true. Okay, so putting the family thing aside and that part of it, let's dig into our four areas. What was the first one, or which one? Where do you want to start? Let's go that route.
Let's go for clients. Let's start clients. Let's save gear for last.
Okay.
So with clients, looking back in 2020, obviously this became the year where relationships were key, absolutely positively key. I'm sure there are many groups out there and many DJs out there who treated everything extremely like a business and came out, spick and span, and nothing was a problem. But I really feel that the relationship side to clients became absolutely key, because you had to be able to work together to get through this. They were in a situation where they had never been before, or you were in a situation where you had never been before, and somehow the two of you had to come out of it together, so that with the postponements, you could be their go-to person. I really think if we were to somehow be able to collectively interview everybody that was a DJ in the entire United States, I feel that there were more people that worked with their clients and worked to postpone and find those new dates and were treated them as friends, that worked to that extent better than those who said, if you want to reschedule, I'm going to charge you X amount to be able to do so, because that's the way it goes. Or you want to cancel, well, I'm sorry, you still owe me everything because this is a business. And I really think that if we compare the two, the first group came out in a much better light.
I think you just one area is you talked about the communications. I think personal service, because it wasn't, as you're describing it, there's unique situations across the board, and it wasn't like there was a one size fits all. So personal service, I think, is probably one of the big things that we're going to be taking out of this year, is people are going to need it. And in some cases, because of the shopping situation, people are going to be expecting a higher level of service and probably expecting it for the same or a slightly less fee than they paid in the past. But yeah, I think that level of service that it took to change dates and make sure things were as good as they possibly could be was unprecedentedly high for us. That didn't come out right. But anyway, it was at a level that we hadn't experienced before. And I don't know if we're going to experience it again at that level, but I think that the couples coming forward are going to expect a higher level of personal service that way, in flexibility.
That last word that you just said, flexibility, I think is going to be key. I think when clients are looking for you, they're going to be looking for things within your reviews or things where they're going to hear about you, where that word is gonna strike gold with them. You know, yes, they want somebody who's gonna rock a party. Yes, they want somebody who's gonna be able to provide that hand-holding service. But the flexibility until we're back to, let's say pre-COVID, if that can ever happen 100%, until we're into that mindset, they're always gonna have that fear of what happens.
Mm-hmm. Could it happen to? Yeah.
If how do we go forward? And because I've even had some that, for this year, their fall dates, and they're like, listen, I'm pretty sure everything's gonna be fine, but what's your policy? How do we handle this? Mm-hmm. And as soon as I laid out to them the different scenarios based upon the state, they're like, oh, okay, so you're flexible if the state says no, we can't have this. And I said, absolutely. I said I'd be a jerk to be otherwise. And they were like, okay. And again, they're going to be looking for that, just if nothing else, for their own peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because in the last 2 weeks I've had, I think, 5 wedding inquiry calls or conversations where they turn into phone calls, and that was like a lead question. What's your policy going to be, or what is your policy when it comes to cancellations if we have to cancel because of the state just saying that? It's going to be obviously huge, and that flexibility is, that's going to be way bigger than probably a lot of other things we take out of this year. Yeah,
absolutely. But I also see the clients that I'm getting for 2021 are also they're coming at it with more. I almost feel like they're doing more research than what they did before.
Okay.
In 2020 and 2019 and that kind of thing, as my clients were coming in, I would talk with them a bit and I would work with them, and we'd sit down and we'd have our meeting and we'd get to know each other. And I would say within the last month, 2 months, maybe even 3, the calls that I've gotten, the emails that have led to phone calls, like I'm having my typical, like, let's get to know each other and everything else. And after a little bit, I'm starting just to kind of get this vibe from them. And finally, I'm just like, are you ready for a contract? Oh, yeah. Like we did our research. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I've had couples that come to me from a venue referral where, like, the research is done because the venue kind of refers me.
Right. It was done deal. Yeah.
But when I'm getting like these third party things, it's like, no, we checked you out. Like we vetted you. And it's like, awesome. Like, because you do like that, because it takes your work completely out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, you're just like, all right, I'm along for the ride. At that point, you're interviewing them. You want to make sure you want to work for them because they already know you. But I really feel like that has stepped up. And I think it's also because we can't really meet. I mean, there's the phone calls, there's Zooms, but we can't go to a coffee shop, sit down. Most places, obviously, I know some states are different, but around me, you can't go to the coffee shops and kind of hang out for an hour talking.
Right. Yes.
And so they're going to do more of that research to really just kind of narrow down, almost the curbside pickup, like you mentioned. They're doing all the research, they're making their purchase, and they're expecting it brought to them. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's not to that extent, but it's as close as they probably can get with you, short of that curbside pickup.
Yeah, that's actually really good a good point, because we've talked in past shows how Amazon is going to, the people's ability to go to Amazon and pretty much look, see, buy, read reviews, and then purchase, how that was going to affect our sales ultimately. And I think this curbside pickup might be another part of that puzzle that makes it so you have people who are like, yep, Dan, we're good. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Where's the contract? But wait, I have this 37-page. I want to show you. I've got this presentation. Zoom. No.
Yeah. I think you're good. I think we're going to need to look more towards, and people have different selling philosophies, and that's a whole nother show. But I really think we're going to end up seeing more either clients who know what they want as far as their add-ons and that kind of thing, or clients that at least know they want you, and then your upsells that you may have typically done at an initial consultation don't really come into play until later. Like, they're going to be booking you, and those extra sales are going to come down the road as you talk to them and show them and everything else. And I really see that more coming into play again later on down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's a good observation. Very good observation. How do you think with the clients? Typically, we see periods of time where we have younger couples. There seem to be a decade where the couples were my average couple was in their 20s or low 20s, and then you get to periods where they're a little bit older. And any feeling, or what have you been on if there's going to be a change in that coming for next year, or do you think it's going to be similar across the board? And let me preface this. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I know a couple of folks who would be 50 and plus who were thinking about getting married, and they've completely put it off. They're like, yeah, we're not getting married. Maybe in a few years, but we're not going to do it. We were thinking about it, but we're just not going to do it. Is that going to affect the weddings that we may be slanted differently?
I haven't seen that coming through yet. I would say your higher age bracket probably will be reduced as far as the number of events that you're getting within that upper range, because exactly you said, they're willing to put it off. They're not planning on having any kids. They're content with probably being within the same house and living together and everything else. So at that point, it really just becomes a piece of paper, and treating it in that realm. So if you have some couples, if anything, you might skew a little bit younger as far as your average age, mm-hmm. but I don't really see that late 20s, early 30s age group changing too much. Yes, I realize they could go and they could have their family and they could have their house and do it all without being married. But I think there's still that tendency for a lot of them to say, I want that family. I want that. I'm going to wait for the marriage. Mm-hmm. I know it's going to be you, so we could get started now, but I feel better if I did that. And you have some women who also, from the standpoint of, you could call it vain, you could call it whatever, but the idea of, I'm going to be able to fit in my dress a lot easier if I do it before I've ever had kids than if I ever have them. The post baby size.
Oh, heck, admit it, Dan. As the guy, I'm going to be able to fit into that tuxedo way better before we have children than after, because I think I gained just as much weight at this. It's like,
we don't worry about that.
You want
much.
A Twinkie? I want a Twinkie too. And we'll put chocolate chips on it, and we'll put ice cream on it, and yeah. I mean, it didn't happen
9:30 at night, run to McDonald's. I get it. Yeah,
it never happened to me or us, but I've heard it happens.
Yeah. Oh my.
So yeah, that was that idea though. With how the age demographic is going to kind of pan out, it'll be interesting to see how that goes into 2021, and if it's going to be, if that those who are a little older are going to just do the small 10-person and that's it. That would be my guess is. I look back, I think it was 9 years ago. I had a seminar. Did 4 or 5 weddings where it was for a second marriage for both of them, and there were some huge events. A couple they talked about this is the wedding I should have had the first time type of thing. I just don't know if we're going to see those types of events. this summer. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. Let's put it that way. If we don't see that go on this year.
And I also say, if anything, I wouldn't say 2021 too much. When I start thinking about this change in the ages and stuff like that, I really think more of 2022, because I think 2021, what you're going to get a lot of is obviously from your postponements. Your couples that wanted to get married, they were all ready to get married, and then they had to postpone it. So that's going to be a good chunk of your 2021 is people who had to kind of adjust their thinking. And then you have the 2021s who are like, well, we were engaged. We didn't really think 2020 was going to happen because it was too quick. Like, we got engaged like in the Christmas of 2019, or the early part of 2020. And so it was like, to try and put it together in 2020 wasn't going to happen. So they were again thinking 2021. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what you're going to have a lot of. And then your ones that are your winner ones of 2020, I see them, you know what? We don't really need to rush. We know it's going to be hard to get certain dates. We're good with 2022. Mm-hmm. And so I don't foresee a lot of the changes and the thought process changing until you see 2022, as far as especially the age demographic potentially changing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We need to move on to the next one.
We do. I just had to go back and see what all was in our list. So let's talk music.
Excellent.
Besides the fact that the average person is probably going to say it sucked. When it came to music, Nick Spinelli said something earlier this year, and it was during summer, and I think it could not be more spot on to 2020. All of our real big dance floor hits just never really happened this year. Mm-hmm. You've got a couple sprinkled throughout. You've got a couple that maybe had like a crowd reaction, but you didn't really have like a big dance floor hit come out, because a lot of I think a lot of your artists were hanging on to these tracks, waiting for the clubs to be open to the point that they could push it and have it go big in the clubs. Mm-hmm. But because there was too many states that have been saying, no, we're not having any clubs, you're like, you know what? We're just going to hang on to this track for another year. We're going to wait and push it to get that support that it needs to have, maybe radio play, but also the club play.
Sure.
Again, you've had some pop hits that have come out and have kind of created some energy, but you just don't really have that real big dance floor hit.
So I'm looking through on a couple of different charts. I went through and I was looking for the big hits of the year of 2020, and I'm looking at this one I just pulled up, and we'll just talk this one. Of course, "Blinding Lights" is one of the top songs from the year. I don't remember when that came out. I think was a 2020 release. Mm-hmm. But then "Dance Monkey," I believe "Dance Monkey" was a 2019.
I think so, yeah.
And "Don't Start Now" was a 2019. "Someone You Love" from Louis
Louis Capaldi.
Capaldi, there we go. It's kind of blurred here. Louis Capaldi, I think that was 2019. "Watermelon Sugar," and I'm skipping down here. "Watermelon Sugar" was this year. And then I think there's 3 or 4 others that were on this top 40 list. "Bad Guy," that was the 2019. It's interesting that all of those lists that are year-to-date top songs from the year are featuring a half a dozen or more songs in the top 50 from last year that were released. And granted, they are going to hit the charts, but there just wasn't anything here to push a September of 2019 song out of the charts.
Yeah. Yeah, and you always have a couple that hit November, December, and they carry into the new year, so potentially they do have like some lasting stay. But if you don't have anything to push it out, like if you don't have anything really coming along, and any of the ones that you mentioned, I'm not sitting there going, whoa, that's "Don't Start Now" was probably about the one that would be a little bit different, where you had some energy that came with that one. Mm-hmm. And even Dua Lipa's got the new one, "Levitating," that kind of has that fun type of upbeat type of feel. But yeah, like there's nothing really to kind of some meat and potatoes, like some real just let's go out and have a dance party.
Yeah, Dave mentions that Blinding Light was a 2019 release also, and it probably was similar where it was the end of the year, and that's why it was so strong in the charts. But there isn't a 2019 song that has been like, oh my, that it's just absolutely gone crazy.
Yeah, no. Even the ones that kind of stuck around and had lasting power as far as the charts were concerned are not what I would consider like, oh, let's go listen to that 1,000 times. It was just, was nothing really pushing it out, or was it just, what, it's a different vibe because there's more radio play, it's more background music, it's more chill out music than it is let's go have a party music.
So I wanted to throw this out, and then we can move on for music, is that sometimes songs have a connection with the person because the song was the background soundtrack of a moment, whether it was a party with some friends, maybe it was in a car and the wind going through your hair, whatever, that type of thing. But there was a moment tied into the song that gave you a positive feeling. And I wonder if part of the system or situation with the 2020 music is that we just haven't had enough of those positive situations. And there's always been that stress and anxiety going on throughout the year, that there could have been, that God could have written a song and recorded it and had Prince sing it, and we still probably would have thought it was dump because it came out in a stressful time for us. I don't know. Where I came up with that little theory is, you look back during some of the wartime, there really wasn't any huge big songs that people were like, yeah, they were songs that people kind of rotated or kind of gravitated around for that moment, but there weren't any big hits that lasted for a long period of time per se. I mean, there were a couple of songs, but I just was wondering if that was a possibility. So if that, I've got to have that, sitting by the beach and seeing that pretty young thing walk by, and I've got that song playing on the radio, and it's like, wow, forever I'm going to be seeing that pretty young thing walking in front, when I hear that song, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's next?
Next would be technology events, kind of almost the hand in hand type of piece to that.
So this is an area I think that 2020 is definitely going to have changed. And already in the chat room, a couple of you have already mentioned it. I don't remember who right off the table. David, I think, mentions upping the Zoom game. More people know what OBS is now. Last year at this time, only MJ knew what OBS was, pretty much. He was the only one. No one else knew what it was. But now people know what OBS is, and they know what StreamYard is, and they know what Zoom is, and some cases are very, very functional with those. I think that technology, not only is the mass public understand what Zoom is now, but I think that we and what we do are going to have to be incorporating this technology to what we do, and some venues are going to have to be adding better quality internet. I was actually talking to a venue manager about 2 weeks ago before Christmas there. And they said that they're bringing fiber optic in because he had asked. We have fiber optic here at the place, and we had to pay to get it added or brought out here. And he's having to do the same thing. And he's like, I'm doing it because I think I'm going to have weddings where they're going to want to stream that wedding out to family next summer, and I want to be the place that they can do that and have a connection that will not drop.
I think that's smart. I think that right there, that is brilliant for any venue to step it up in that fashion, because whether they're going to offer the streaming capabilities or not, like the actual streaming process, to say, you know what, we're the place that you can come and we're going to hook up whoever it is, that your vendor that needs to be able to stream, they're going to have a solid connection while they're here.
Yeah, one of the things he was saying. So can I guarantee once we have fiber optic, is it that consistent that we can guarantee that we can stream events? Well, you have a high up ratio.
Yeah.
I don't think anything in this world is quote guaranteed anymore, but there's a really good chance we'll be able to do it. A 95% or 98% chance we can. Yeah.
You could say we'll have the best internet option for doing so.
There we go. That's the way it should be. I mean, I didn't even think about that, but it was all about, I'm thinking to myself, we can have streams, we can do weeks of streams, no problems. And then all of a sudden we'll have 3 days in a row where it's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not perfect. But yeah, so technology that way. Cameras. And the reason I bring up cameras is because I've had people asking, what kind of cameras we use and such. And I've had people, they're making statements about camera quality. And we'll back up a few years ago when we first were starting to do some of the YouTube video things. And that was one of the big things, these YouTube, how to get make $1 million on YouTube. Well, you've got to have really good video. And then the cell phone things, I mean, this is 2010. And then the cell phone came in. Everybody was shooting everything on cell phone. And people got used to seeing this shaky and the blurry. And people were... Now it's like, okay, are we starting to hear people now that they're ready to go beyond the good cell phone? They want to get even better quality video for almost everything. I'm wondering about that, especially when it comes to streaming. Are webcams going to do it, or are we going to have to, for streaming some of these events, up the game even higher and having some high quality 4K cameras streaming and sending this whatever?
I think yes. I think we're definitely going to need it. You're definitely going to need something better. And here is why. You have your guests or your clients rather, and they're coming to you and they're looking for a service. If they wanted cell phone quality or they wanted webcam quality, that's at their fingertips now. Because so many of them, through work and through what they're doing in a day-to-day job, they're sufficient on Zoom. They're relatively competent in what they're doing. So they could probably put this together and stream themselves.
Sure.
So if I'm going to pay you for this feature, what are you bringing to the table that I can't set up and let Bob over here run?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And if really all you're doing is setting a camera up and hitting broadcast and nothing else, then yeah, they are right. Kind of like the same idea. If all you're doing, we've said this before with DJs, if all you're doing is rocking in, hitting play and never touching it again and letting it run on auto mix and not breaking a microphone, what are you bringing to the table that an iPad can't? Mm-hmm. That same idea. So, do I think you have to have the 4K cameras? I think it also depends on what you're trying to do with your service. What the events that I've streamed this year, the weddings that I've streamed this year, I let them know. I was like, straight up, like, this is just, I'm not a videographer. This is going to be a webcam. This is going to be a computer. The best feed you're going to have is going to be audio, because that is my wheelhouse. Right. And we're going to make sure that it sounds as great as it can. But I also wasn't turning around and trying to charge them for acts. If anything, I was trying to give them peace of mind of like, listen, your event's got to be changed. I realize that it's the last minute. Here's the thing. Grandma can't come. We're still going to make sure Grandma can see what's going on. And we went about it from that angle instead.
Sure. And yeah, I think when a person can be upfront and this is what I can do for you, and this is what we can offer, and this is what the expectations, you set those in advance. So that helps tremendously.
David brings up a good point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was thinking it's like, yeah, David.
Yeah.
That's it. Go ahead.
So David in the chat, for those of you that are not seeing it, he's like, I think your 4K camera takes you back to the last conversation we had, that most locations are not going to have the bandwidth to handle it. So yeah, so you are going to have to be able to know what you have and what it's going to require. So don't run out and buy that 4K camera. If you look at it and go, oh, in order to upload a 4K, it's got to be this, and nobody's being able to offer that, then that becomes a waste of money. Now you can record it, set it up for them to stream from your house type of thing when you might be able to have a better connection. But if you're doing that live, right, make sure what you have is actually going to be useful.
Yeah, for sure. Because that takes, I don't remember exactly what, I think if I remember correctly, yeah, there we go. It takes almost 40 megabit connection to stream a 4K to YouTube. So
not doing that with a cell phone.
Yeah, no, you're not doing that with a cell phone. For a while, Verizon was letting us have that 50 up, 50 down, but yeah, you're not getting that anymore. So, and that's again going to YouTube with that. So, excellent. Okay, so yeah, the camera thing will be that will in the technology side. It'll be interesting to see. Just a couple little things with the 4K. The camera is one part of it, and then it's the ability to capture it from the camera and take it to the computer, and then having a computer big enough to take it from that and do what it needs to do and do its hocus pocus, and then to send it off to YouTube or send it off wherever it's going to eventually go, Vimeo, what have you. That's expensive stuff. I mean, we had a computer we had for in Vegas with us last year. We had purchased one of the new MacBook Pros. It can do it. Gets incredibly hot, but it can do it, and it wasn't cheap. So there's the thing is that this is one of those situations that people are like, hey, can you stream? Yeah, can you do high definition? Well, certainly we can. I've got 4K cameras. To set the expectations, because unless you're willing to spend $10,000 and to be sure that there's fiber optic that is going to give you that 100 meg up and down, it's just not something you're going to be able to consistently or safely deliver.
I think there's also a difference expectation between the streaming aspect and between your videography aspect. I really think, and I could be completely wrong by this, but until we come to a situation where the speeds are going to be more conducive to 4K, there's no point to even jump in that game, because for majority you're going to be getting at best is going to be some high quality HD. And even that, depending upon the place that you're at, the upload could be, you might have to downgrade even more to make it go. So I think as we look at it, there's also a difference in expectation between streaming and between recorded. When I'm getting something streamed to me, and I don't mean from the standpoint of like, oh, I'm streaming it from Disney Plus type of thing, but I'm streaming it from a live presentation on YouTube. I'm not expecting 4K from it.
Yeah.
Even from something that's highly produced and everything else, I'm not expecting 4K. And I think majority of your clients wouldn't expect 4K from that standpoint. They would expect it for the recording and their video that they're going to get it when it's all said and done from a videographer, or if you're going to record it for them, that's different. But I think in the streaming, there's also going to be that expectation, at least for a while, to be like, you know what, I'm okay with that being at 1080 or even 720.
Excellent. Let's move on to our final area, I think. Yes.
Yeah. I can't believe we're there already. So gear, we wanted to save the best for last.
Well, there was nothing new this year. Okay, that's over. Thanks for watching tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's been kind of the downside this year, is because events weren't really happening, so there was no big rush to put anything out. There's been some hit and miss. The Wash FX finally has Hex from Chevet. They finally have Hex, which is something that for those of us, was it 3 years ago, I think, Bill Marsh and myself and a few others were walking around the floor going, man, they added UV. All right, where's the rest of the other 6? And so just kind of, so they finally brought that into the fold. And you've had some other, was the Evolve 30 this year, or was it the tail end of last year?
Beginning of this year. They showed it for the first time at NAMM 2020.
Okay, so that would be one that I would definitely say was kind of a bright spot when it came to gear. It definitely fit a niche market that was needed. Having the inputs on the back, again, it's not your big party type of speaker, but it's it has its purpose and what it's using. So the Evolve 30M I think was a great one. But when we look at controllers, when we look at other speakers, there was just no push to really kind of have anything that we saw at NAMM or maybe heard about at NAMM come into play, because events were happening. So it's like, well, we'll wait.
And I think, yeah, and you can see that, as you mentioned, a few that had. You go back to look at, let's early in the season, Newmark had talked that there was going to be a couple of products released this year. the last on their website press release, January 8th was the last time Newmark released any information. That was about the DJ to Go Touch, which was at NAMM 2020. Denon, the Prime Go, they've got that. That's all. There's nothing new, from that really has been from the Denon world since NAMM. Pioneer, if it wouldn't have been for the Flex, where is it? Yeah, the Flex, and then they had a mixer. That was really pretty much all they've done this year.
Yeah.
Now, the reason the Newmark is pushing their one of their kind of entry level boards, bedroom DJ boards. The Flex is basically kind of a bedroom DJ board. Those are the ones that they've been going to and working that market because people had money from unemployment, what have you, or they were getting federal stimulus, whatever, and they were at home. What are you going to sell? Let's sell those things. That's why so many, Ben and so many others were selling streaming gear this year because that was big. You look at Roland. Roland hasn't really come out with anything, but what they're featuring are some of their tools to use for making your own music and in your own mixing. Groove boxes are a big push from Roland right now. You mentioned Chauvet. They just tweaked a few lights. American DJ tweaked a couple of lights really for this year. And that's been really it. And I just wonder, will that change in 2021, excuse me? Because we're coming up to NAMM. And usually by now there's things that start to leak out that we can start talking about, hey, we're going to see this in 3 weeks. Nothing. It's been crickets.
Yeah. I think what we're going to end up seeing with these companies is we're not going to see something come through at NAMM. I don't, just because the fact that it went virtual, I don't think there's the same push to say, we want to make this big splash. If it's going to be virtual, I can wait another month and make my own splash, potentially. So I really foresee what ends up happening is these companies have something. I guarantee they have something in their mind, and they're just kind of waiting for that thought, waiting for that corner to kind of turn, so you get the excitement about the piece of equipment, not the, man, that's a great piece of equipment. If only I had the money. If only I had the money. And instead you get that turn of it. That's a great piece of equipment. And you know what? I've got a couple events that I know are going to happen here in a couple months. When it comes out, I'm ready for it. And just that different mindset that's going to change, and they can create that splash, and they can do it on their own, or at least outside of a national type of event.
Yeah.
With that, I will say the one thing that I do like about what the companies did with 2020 is exactly what you mentioned. They tweaked them. Like Chauvet went through and they said, you know what, we're not going to break out a brand new light, but we could put this. This is something that they've talked about for, people have kind of said we would like this, but we weren't really, it wasn't on our front burner. But you know what, we're not really, it doesn't make, we can change it without having to completely change it. Like we can tweak it. And that's good. Rain, did the MK2s with the turntable. So they altered a couple of their features on it. So without redesigning everything, they could tweak it. I think that tweaking became a nice thing, because too often times I think these companies get into presenting a new piece of gear. It's got certain flaws. Unless they're big enough flaws, they're not going to go through and they're going to change it, because they're constantly having to come out with the next great thing so that people buy whatever the next great thing is. There was no push. They knew they're not going to make anything. And probably, I would assume, and I could be completely wrong by this, that the tweaks are a lot less cost to them than what it would be, obviously, to do a new event or to do a new piece of equipment. And so it was a way for them to still stay relevant, appease their loyal followers, sell some new equipment for people who really needed that new feature, and just kind of hold on to those bigger things for when no longer needing to tweak and knowing that the money was coming.
Yeah, I think there's a good explanation of what we've seen. And I think we're going to see things, but it might be all the way to DJ Expo.
Yeah,
to get that time, and even then, there's a level of concern will there be enough? Can the companies continue to just sell current stock or current inventory, or have that be the only thing? You know, it's a, okay, so there's no one with money, so they couldn't buy. So if we introduce a new controller, the Denon, 8500, whatever. But if nobody's got money, no one will buy it. And then we had in our 5-year plan, we've got the Denon 9500 that's supposed to be coming out, in 2022. And well, if they don't buy the one, then there's so many variables involved with trying to put this together.
I will say, I don't think, you say DJ Expo. If it comes out, if we get the word on DJ Expo, it's going to be in-house. We're ready to ship them. Like, I think that's going to be the different feel. This isn't going to be the NAMM, not available till mid-March type of thing. It's going to be, or mid-May, whatever you want to believe with that.
Works in March, May.
But I think it's going to be one of those things where, there's going to be a product release like 2 weeks before Expo. So come with money in hand and you're walking home with it type of feeling to it. I see that maybe as a little bit more, because to wait till August, I think that's a little late in the game. I think they're going to need to, that's the big event. That's the first big event. But I think there's going to be enough turning the corner March, April, that they're going to be able to, let's get the word out and start selling them, say, June, July, August.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
It'll be an interesting year. That it will be.
Yeah.
After a very interesting year in 2020.
But different, but interesting for all the good reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
So tomorrow night, we're going to have Jay Bryan and I will be getting together again tomorrow evening, and we're going to talk about, I asked the guys to go and pick 10 songs from 2020 that we might be actually remembering in 5 years. I want to see if the guys can do it. And they bounce around to other types of music outside of just the top 40. So it'll be interesting, but it'll be a 10-minute show. No. So we may be listening to Huey Lewis a lot tomorrow night, but that's okay. That's okay. I'll be prepared. And after that, then it's New Year's Eve. And word has it that Jimmy Spin is going to be performing New Year's Eve some way, shape, or form on, I think he's going to be trying to do it on Twitch. So for those of you who haven't heard Jimmy Spin is our graphics guy, Jimmy DePalma. He actually is really, really good. And he's got his music tastes and mine don't match up. We'll go with that, because he obviously doesn't understand how great Huey Lewis is. But anyway, but it's a fun walk down kind of the music lane with the different songs that he picks out, and he's really into that more of that New York sound, that club sound from back in the day. So that will be going on New Year's Eve evening, and once he has links up and such, we'll share those. But it could be a fun night to kind of hang out. And ideally, if it works out, I think that's going to be on Twitch. And if we have the chill room set up, so people are listening to it on Twitch, and you can set it in the background kind of quietly, so you can hear what he's doing and have the conversation in the chill room. It could be kind of a fun night for DJs to get together and hear a little mixing going on, and still have some socializing and a good evening to see some friends. So
definitely,
yeah.
And you got to do something, because you can't go if you're not going to a party. You got to create your own.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it for this week.
All right.
As we have more holidays.
So keep an eye out for the different things that are going to be happening next year, and all the different fun things that are coming, and just kind of if we do any changes to formats, all that kind of good stuff. So John will be filling you all in on that as we go. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your night, enjoy the rest of your week, and of course, if we don't see you before then, have a wonderful, happy New Year.
Good night, everybody.